I'm going to call the meeting to order. Any changes, additions, or removals? All right, our first order of business is to approve the regular minutes from April 7th. I forgot a pen again. I'll make a motion to approve those.
All right, I'll second it. I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, our next order of business is to approve the minutes from April 10th. That was a special meeting. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Is it too late to add something to that?
No.
I wanted to insert a line about that I had also discussed the idea of finances in general, in terms of, you know, what would happen if we had another flood, and money on hand versus money coming, you know, going out versus money coming in. Something to that effect, if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah, that's good. That's fair. I think you did raise that, though, if I recall.
So do we revise this and approve it at next meeting? Is that what we do?
Or you can approve it implemented.
Oh, with that condition? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it with the amendment.
I'll second that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Thursday, April 10th at 8:30 a.m. That was our special meeting. The grader.
I'm saying.
Are you good, Keith?
I'm good. I'm just looking next.
Okay.
We're at citizen comment.
Yep. Does anybody have anything they want to raise? Yeah, please.
First, I'd like to congratulate, I guess, the highway department on a fantastic job this past winter and into the spring on making our roads not just passable, but actually a lot better than they have been in the past. However, along those lines, I'd like to point out two issues that I'm aware of. Up off Lions Hill Road, at the corner of Lions Hill and Windy Lane. When we had the really heavy rains, what was it, 2 years ago maybe? The water was coming through the culvert that came underneath Lions Hill at such force, it cut into the bank where it shot into on Windy Lane, into that front field, and eroded it quite a bit. I would like to see that fixed, and possibly some of those heavy stone that they put in the ditch along Lions Hill added at least that far, you know, knowing that that could happen again. And then further on down Windy Lane, there is a culvert that goes underneath the road to accommodate a stream that runs year-round. That culvert is steel and it's caved in the middle. Bob Dean got down and took some pictures of it. I don't know if he shared that with you or not. And it's rotting on the bottom. So, you know, I hope there's some plan to fix that. That's where, again, with that heavy rain event we had, the edge of the road caved in, and I think it had something to do with the fact that that culvert wasn't flowing properly.
That culvert's on the schedule to be replaced this summer.
I'm sorry.
That culvert's on the schedule to be replaced this summer with a new one. I can't say exactly when,
Yeah.
but it will be replaced this summer.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Because Bob Dean had inquired about size, because I know he was putting one on your property, wanted to make sure he had the same size,
Right.
not undersized, and we told him that, gave him that information.
I think he said 2 feet.
Yeah, I think it was 24 inches what we ended up with. But that'll be replaced this summer, along with 11 bridges and
Yeah.
everything, you know, but it'll be replaced.
All right.
It is definitely on the list.
And if you can do something up at that intersection.
Yeah, that's a new one on me. I haven't been up there lately,
You have to
but,
go and look, and if you see the angle that culvert comes under Lions Hill and shoots in there, you see where it shot straight into the bank.
sounds like a load of 3 or 4 inch riprap might take care of it.
Yeah, well, pull that back, because it filled in the ditch, which is the
Yeah.
waterway.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I duly noted.
Okay.
Hey, while we're on that subject, do you know what Larry's timeline is for the river dredging down on Dublin Road where the bridge is, that FEMA project?
No,
Okay, just curious.
no.
All right.
No, we're on Dublin Road, we're at the bridge on Tatro Road. That's, neighbors asked me about that again. It's buttresses leaning forward. They were gonna do that when remember they broke up that big rock there on the other side up the road a little
Yeah.
bit? They had the machine in there, they were gonna do it at the same time, but they didn't do anything with that bridge.
It might have been a FEMA issue. So I don't know the timeline of those things. I know we just put a big advertisement out to bid for 11 projects. So it's out to bid right now, a lot of that work. And depends on who the contractor is and their schedules and availability. So we'll get to it. Yeah.
Is there anything to be, we never did discuss the ice storm that happened. I think a lot of it wasn't necessarily town stuff. It was a lot of Green Mountain Power's job with the lines and the trees that came down. But I did notice some people up on Messer Hill Road did some tree clearing. I think it was Bill Lambert, maybe Andy Crossman opened up that road, and it was pretty nice to see people getting involved safely.
Yeah,
We have an
that was very
emergency
helpful.
like that.
They were right on the scene, first ones.
I don't know who walked up our road, because there were 9 trees down between my driveway and Shim's. They're almost dead. I didn't go anywhere, so, but other people wanted to get out. I don't know why. Well, one had a funeral, so I had to go.
I do know along with our own crews, we hired 2 contractors to work along with us too.
Well, that's what we have a text on our road, and I just said, they're working as hard as they can, and then it was open by 11:30.
Yeah.
Just cleared to get, because they were down power line, and we had no power for 36 hours.
Yeah,
Lived there 41 years, it's the longest I've ever been without power.
yeah, that's a long stretch.
And Larry tried to hire Asplin, the tree crew that was working here on Route
Yeah.
100, but they couldn't do it for whatever, something to do with the administrative office, wouldn't let that tree crew work on ice storm stuff. It was just,
Interesting. I don't know who did ours, no idea, they just cut it up and the lines were,
Yeah.
so only for lack of trying, it was some kind of bureaucratic
Yeah.
sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
was
it's
a
part of the
disaster
condition of
there,
the
yeah.
contract. They have a contract with Green Mountain Power, and they're not allowed to work with towns or private entities. It's gotta be
Yeah.
strictly Green Mountain Power, and they're not gonna, risk losing that contract.
Right,
So
I have no idea who did it.
it's not good, you see them sitting on the side of the road sometimes, say, hey, while you're here, can you? No,
Yeah,
you can't do it.
exactly. Well,
But it is what it
they
is.
did well, I think everything's pretty
Yeah.
good, so.
Any other comments? Then that brings us to appointing a second fence viewer. And Angela, John has volunteered to do that? John Dupont, is that? Okay. So I would make a motion to appoint John.
Does he know he's gonna be appointed? Or is he just getting appointed?
I think there's got a little, okay.
Sure. I second it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Great. Our next job is to approve purchase of flashing speed limit signs. And that's for Route 100 out here. To get people to drive a little bit slower.
Is that a portable one?
This is a
They
permanent.
move it back and forth? Or
Good question. I don't think we've spec'd them out. Have you, Angela, do you have any
These are
specs?
solar panels.
Yeah, solar powered.
Okay.
So we can move them.
So like one had on 103, had to go to Petersville, because it's
I think those are
35.
good. I mean, I know when I see it, it makes me more aware.
Yeah.
Do we know the cost, Angela?
They range from like 1,500 each to 4,000, depends on, but Jay was talking about a grant to get those.
Ironically, it's AARP. Why they give grant money for those signs, I have no idea, but
I think it's there.
we'll try to get it.
And the locations have already been determined where they're going. As you come in, it's just crossing from McDonald Road and down. Before you crest down to Paley Road, up a little bit where the hemlock tree is on the left-hand side, kind of block. So Carol doesn't get
Oh, down
the
there.
lights flashing in her,
House.
yeah.
I know the permit work got quite involved, and Angela did a lot of legwork on it with roads, traffic counts, and just the whole process. So I think we're ready to rock and roll if you want to purchase them.
So are we?
I don't see why we wouldn't.
So we should probably look into the grant first, just to make sure, in case there's any spec from them for the signs.
Okay.
I can do that between now and the next meeting.
Sure. Sure.
How do we decide what sign you're getting?
I went to a catalog and picked one.
Or just pick what we want?
Well, I don't know.
Specific ones.
No, actually, they do have some really strict requirements, now I think about it.
Black ones.
You know, size and color letters and all that stuff. It's part of the permit application. They specify what we could use or what we should use. So if you want to take a look at it, you can get into a full permit for you sometime.
Where's the closest one? Isn't it in, going into Woodstock there?
Maybe.
I guess we can just look at it, right? See what the brand name is on it?
Yeah.
There's a trailer just towed over here.
No, it's on a post.
So are we gonna own it?
It's permanent.
Yeah.
Well, if you need some contribution to it, then I'll do it and do it from the store.
Okay, let's see where we go with the grant, Rick, but thank you. They may pick up the lion's share of it.
Okay. The next item up is a discussion on the lawsuit pending against the town of Plymouth with Tepper Pepperman. And the latest I got from the attorney, and that's been going on it's been quiet for 2 months, but our attorney's made a motion to dismiss. Our attorney believes that the procedures that we did this in, it was the exemption of Bethany Birches, we did it in the correct order and in a lawful manner, so there's no grounds. So they're filing a motion to dismiss, and we'll find out probably within the next 30 days whether we have to do more.
Fair enough.
If there's nothing more about that, we have a discussion about the short-term rental property inspector. And the challenge here is that public safety will not inspect property for short-term rentals unless they are 4 bedrooms or more. Is that right? 5 bedrooms,
I had a conversation with Charlie Kimball about it, if you want me to relay that.
please.
So I did call him, finally got in touch with him. He reached out to the state guy who was out of state in a conference, but then got some verification back. He said he'd continue to get a little bit more, but he did verify that Charlie himself was unaware that there was any kind of change in personnel or whatever that would, obstruct anybody from doing any inspections. But then he also said that, based on a second conversation, that his own understanding of the statute and the understanding that's conveyed by the state level guy was that the state will not, and doesn't have to inspect anything with less than 8 occupants. And so if there's no, overbearing change in what's going on, the state doesn't even require it, and that's what this self-certification form is all about. And Charlie pointed out, that's why the language at the top of it reads, "This form shall be complete by the short-term rental operator and retained on site. The form need not be filed with the department," because it's been assumed all along, according to statute, that anything less than 8 occupants is self-certifiable. Meaning, if you don't have more than 8 people in your house, you can fill this out, keep it there, and that's that. So unless there's some type of discrepancy with our own statute, and our own statute requires a fire inspection, the fire inspector need not inspect anything under 8 occupants. And if they were doing so, they were doing so as a favor to the town. And if they were charging for it, I don't understand that either, because it's not required to be done. So that's my understanding, that's conveyed, and I don't know how that fits in, again, with the language of our own statute, but it appears that if there's if there's less than 8 occupants in any property, there's no need for any type of fire inspection, whether by the state or by us. So that would absolve us of having to find somebody to inspect these things, unless it is if you're gonna have 8 people in there, but I don't think many of these properties, where's Frank at? Are a lot of these properties 8 people or more?
They're almost all under 8, under 4 bedrooms.
Well, then
But
they could fill this out and have it sit there in their kitchen counter and,
I sent you the email explaining the history of this whole thing. Again, there's a form, and I've looked at that form, and people fill it out. It's only as good as the knowledge of the person doing it. In many of these cases, a lot of people don't know whether the smoke alarm is CO, whether it's 10 years, whether it's wired in. Some of these houses have cathedral ceilings that are 20 feet up. And for me, when I go to, I have to rely on that now because they've stopped doing this inspection. Now, maybe they were doing it as a favor, but my idea is that, what are we doing this short-term rental thing about? We're doing it about fire safety and nuisance control. That was the whole thing. We had fire up in Okemo. 20 people were in a room. This is what we're trying to avoid. So I don't know if Steve was doing this too, but I jumped on I asked the fire inspector when I first came in to get in and do these things. At that time it was what's his name, Jay Moody was doing them. He was very good, and I used him even for some long-term inspections as part of the town health officer. That was working. He moved on to Orange County, other people moved in, and then the legislature changed the law for long-term inspections, taking it out of the hands of the health officer and putting it into the fire marshal. And then when that happened, all of a sudden they were shorthanded. They went out and hired 5 people out of Springfield to do those inspections, but they basically said, we don't have time to do all of this short-term rental stuff. For a while, they started charging to make it a little more palatable, but then the beginning of this year, they just said, we're out of this. So we started using this form. Okay, the form fills a need if you want, and liability and all that, but does it really make these places any safer?
Can you tell us about?
I know.
Can you tell us
I
about?
can tell whether the place is, like last Saturday, I did an inspection, and I had the guy put in a couple more fire alarms and things like that. I'm not a fire safety inspector.
Can you tell us about some of the problems that you found when you've been working with the fire marshal, like basement in the bedroom without like an egress window? I thought there was.
Pick up things like that.
Yeah.
Most of it was, they have this thing about grippable handrails. They were worrying about egress and they were very reasonable, and I had no problems with any of them. I probably could have come up with the same conclusion if I really read the regulations of that. But that's, I'm not registered, I'm not licensed to do that. And through my profession, I've always worked as a licensed professional, and it just doesn't seem, so I went up to Jim Allen, and I said, Jim, why don't you get one of your younger guys who's knowledgeable, get him trained as a inspector, and you could use that town-wide for that'll be a bonus for the town to have a qualified person on staff who could look at any house, whether it's a homestead house, a second home, a long-term rental, or a short-term rental. We have that capability. he thought it was a good idea, and I guess it's what led up to this meeting. But, I mean, that's where we're at. And then I saw Angela said that now they want 2 courses to take, and you have to be certified.
And so, yeah, I mean, it puts the onus on the town. If the town's willing to take that on, then it becomes the town's responsibility. The state's already saying, we're not inspecting anything less than 8 occupants. So then if the town takes it on, then it's the town's liability and everything else to certify these places.
But right now, I'm doing it. The state was doing it.
You shouldn't be doing that.
When the state was doing it, what they had told me was that anything, it was a change of use, and that's what it was. It was a change of use going not from a residence to a rental. And they would charge, and I think the fee was $125 for the inspection on that. And that covered, they would look at the difference between photoelectric and ionization, smoke and fire detectors, dryer vents, a lot of them are plastic, and those are not, and egress, and those are the 3 main things, and handrails. You know, those are the major things on that. You know, and it's not, I think the class is done down at the National Academy in Emmitsburg, Maryland. So, you know, but there's not that part of it. There's a lot to it, but then there's not a lot to it if you kind of have a little bit of a handle on it already. You know, but those are the things that just what's on that self-certification is going through that. And most people, like Frank related to, was that they really don't understand the process. I actually have to put in a Knox box for somebody tomorrow, and they're like, well, where do I put it? So, you know, I mean, the questions are out there, and it's not, you know, self-certification to me does not work. You know, so that's, I mean, it does for some, I'm not gonna say, but it certainly is, you know, one of the other things that they did as well is that if it was a 4-bedroom home, sleeps 8 people. And if there were too many beds in there, the fire marshal would say you need to remove a bed, because a full-size bed, queen or king, counts as 2 people on that. So that was, you know, it was good to go out with them and see some of that stuff, and that was their regulations on that. So, you know, and they're not. I went out with 3 different ones, and they're a little bit askewed from each other. So, but for the most part, they're on target.
That's an understatement. There were inconsistencies.
Huh?
There were inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I mean, it's going on in Ludlow as well. The same exact discussion is happening in Ludlow about who's going to inspect properties. You can read right here on the front page, you know. Ludlow Fire Chief Ben Whalen told the board there are around 1,000 STRs in Ludlow, and estimated about 800 of those have occupancies of more than 8 people. Thereby requiring fire marshal inspection. However, he noted that the fire marshal had likely already inspected many of these units previously. So, you know, that's the question. If it's less than, you know, if it's more than 8, we're going to inspect. If it's less, we're not. And that's the question that we have here. Are we going to inspect, or are we going to follow the state statute, or are we going to have our own statute? And we're going to inspect. You know, we're not going to allow self-certification. We're not going to allow you to have this and put it in your kitchen drawer. We're going to inspect.
I like that idea of inspected.
Right. Well, if we're going to do that, then we need to train an inspector that can go out and do that. So that's, who is this person going to be? It's not going to be me. I'm not going to take the class. So, you know, and they got to go out, and then you got to insure them and everything else and take all that liability on us. So if you certify it and something's wrong, you know, yeah, it's egress and it's not, and somebody burns alive, then it's the town of Plymouth. It's not the state of Vermont. So we have to decide if we want to do that.
You go in there and you do the job and you look at it and you sign off on it. You know, and then a lot of times people will change things. Okay, they're gone. Now we can put that bed back in. You know, and it's going to happen, but you know, at least you know you're making an earnest effort to make it right and make it and keep it equitable to everybody, and that's what it needs to be. It needs to be equitable to everybody that is 8 occupants or less, you know, or 4 bedrooms or less, as it was written. You know, but,
Would the town really be liable then, you think?
I mean, I can't answer that question. I know we've discussed that possibility, like, is the town somehow on the hook? I mean, I guess anything's possible. If we went in and certified a place and said it was legit and somebody had an accident and, you know, I guess the inclination would be to sue. You said it was certified, they couldn't get out. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible.
Angela, wasn't there a communication from the league on that question?
Bruce had his hand up too. Yeah.
So the VLCT did not recommend that we get involved in a fire or town. They thought there was liability, but in talking with Fire Chief Ben Whaling, like a week ago, and Fire Marshal Michael Messer today, he said what happens, the Division of Fire Safety will sign a memorandum of understanding with somebody who's certified. That certification requirement is you take Fire 1 and Fire 2 instructor class. It's probably 100 hours, you know, it's 2 months, 2.5 months, doesn't matter, but there's a time frame, then you have to test out, then you have to get something in writing from them, then you kind of work hand in hand as if you were one of it for the Division of Fire Safety. So it's supposed to, I'm not gonna say protect, because anybody can sue you for anything, but that's how to get around that workabout, and Jim Allen was interested in that. He was interested in going to Maryland. They've canceled the classes down there, and I did not see it on the agenda anyway. But to find one of these classes, it's hit or miss. So there's nothing at the fire academy, and they're not all that often.
Could we, the Ludlow person, if they choose to do this, it might be something where we could hire that person to do it if they had a inspector.
Right, that's what I was gonna say.
Keep in mind, they have 1,000,
Yeah.
and they've got a lot. They have to do at least 200 and something every year to catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's down, and if they say they do it every 5 years, and I'm not saying it wouldn't work, it's just there's a tall task ahead of them there.
I mean, for our purposes, it would make sense that somebody on our fire department was the certified person and did it. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, if Jim was willing.
Just anybody has to.
No, it can't be just anybody. It's gotta be somebody who knows something about fire.
Yeah, and building and, you know, not to just sit in class, but absorb and understand what you're looking at.
Bruce.
That's not really anything.
Excuse me, Bruce is next. Thanks. Bruce.
You don't gotta know about fire.
It isn't, it's really looking
The
at.
state is mandating if it's 8 persons, it has to be inspected, is that right?
Yeah, that's the threshold.
So can a town have its own regulations beyond that?
We do?
We do.
Yep.
So if we were doing inspections, there is that issue of liability. However, all you need is the lawyer to draw it up, and there's disclaimers in there that, you know, this doesn't necessarily mean there will never be a fire or whatever else it might be. But the inspection at least certifies you've met the basic requirements of the town
On that day.
on that day, correct? Because like you said, it could change when the inspector walks away.
You know, if they don't have the handrails, and you say, hey, you know what, you don't have the appropriate handrails, we're not necessarily enforcing that, but you know, if something happens, then your insurance company gets this letter and there's an accident.
That's right.
Right? But if there's a dangerous condition, like, you know, a bedroom apartment with 4 beds in it and no way to get out, only one way to get out, I think that's a responsibility that we should
Conversely, if they met all of the requirements, it may mean that they're going to get a better deal through their insurance company. I don't know that, but that's a possibility.
So Jay, with the handrail thing like that, one of the things that I think Jay Moody did was he would give them 30 days to upgrade what they had to, and then they would sign off, they would self-certify that it was done, or take a picture or something like that. So, you know, it's still, because I don't think if you acknowledge it, there's a liability. Once you acknowledge it, that there's a violation or something that needs to be changed, then there's already a liability on that. So you have to stick with, you know, be consistent and say, you know, this is what we found. And there's things that.
And we can define what we decide we want to enforce and what we don't enforce as part of our ordinance, right?
Right.
Yeah, and with that, I would suggest that you move away from this thing and create our own form that has our own fire, even if it mirrors this completely, because this is misleading. You know, this, if we're not gonna, this is the state, we need to have a Plymouth one. You know, Plymouth fires.
Something on street sales.
Yeah, this incorporates a whole bunch of things in addition to fire, but we're using these fire provisions on here and, you know, with this blurb about, this is a self-certification sheet, so we shouldn't use a self-certification sheet. We should have our own Plymouth STR, you know, with its own stipulations.
Right, but our regulations don't go into things like you need to have, it doesn't repeat the fire code, it just references. So you have that issue, we're not sitting there telling people that they have to handle it.
I get it. I'm still confused, and I've already, you know, I've spoken to you, I've spoken to them, you know, there's obviously some inner language, some semantics that's getting confusing.
And it's not a smooth transition, but I think the basic thing is, what are we doing this for? And
Sure.
trying to ensure safety, to me, it's all about safety of tenants. And if you don't do any inspection, what do we have except a database and a money collection system? So, that's your choice.
No, I agree with you 100%. The only reason I signed on to this in the beginning was because it was supposed to be a safety thing. It's ridiculous if it is a safety thing and we're not inspecting anything, but
And that's what I'm trying to do.
I think the onus of this discussion was, okay, how do we inspect? Because I just, you know, I went to the top and asked and was told, oh, you don't inspect places with less than 8 people. Okay, great. Well, then how do we inspect that? I guess the ball does fall back in our court. You know, we have to do it. So we just have to figure out how we're going to do it. And it appears that we need to get somebody on the fire department to go take a class. Right?
Sounds like
Whether
it.
it's Jim or somebody, you're on the fire department. You got nothing better to do. No, somebody on the fire department would have to do it.
Keith, I have a question. First of all, thanks for reaching out to Charlie Kimball. I think everybody appreciates that. Is my understanding, when there are 8 or more, is the fire marshal still going to inspect for 8 or more, or they're just saying it has to be inspected and we have to do it?
No, the state is supposed to inspect anything 8 or more.
That's what I thought you said. Okay.
Yeah, like if it's 8 or
That's my
more, they
question.
need to be in there. Like
Right.
that's what
So
this is
we're only
about.
responsible for 8 or less, or less than 8, maybe.
Well, theoretically, if we want to be.
Over 8.
Right.
Over 8, the fire marshal does it.
Okay,
Anything over
okay,
8.
I
There's
understand.
different tiers. You have the residential tier, then you have 8 to like 16, and then 17 is like a hotel, like the Echo Lake Inn.
Okay.
And just to add, it's probably gonna be months before there's instructor classes available, so Jim would not get that certification or be tied to the fire marshal. Michael Messer said that if we were in a pickle, he would still come in and do the 4 bedrooms, 8-person if we needed them. It's just they're trying to veer away from it, and they're not. They've told people that they're not gonna do it. He's still receiving applications to do inspections, but we may need to use him for a little while longer until Jim or whoever gets up and.
Frank?
The question I have is, I know you said 100 hours to become an official inspector, but for our town level, is that necessary? It doesn't seem to me like it's that complicated that you need 100 hours to study. I would think you could do it and I'm not gonna.
But that class does a lot more.
A lot more than we need.
Well beyond.
Right, but I would think that for what we need to inspect to guarantee that a tenant is not walking into a fire trap could be done in less than 100 hours. And even though that person in our fire department may not be an official state inspector, they'll at least have a formal training in what we need to do.
That goes back to like what Keith said then, what do we want to do on our own? If you want a memorandum of understanding from the fire marshal to say that this person is working in conjunction with us, that this person needs to take those, regardless, it's got promotional and everything.
My suggestion is to bypass what the fire marshal says and just have a Plymouth fire inspector who has some arbitrary education that meets our town needs, and forget about the state needs.
It's whatever you guys want to
That's
do in
it.
the ordinance.
Well,
That's what I just.
But then the state wouldn't certify that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't wrap it in their bow, in other words. Or the state level guy wouldn't, Frank's idea wouldn't be a rubber stamp by the state level guy. We need to have the we need the Jim or whoever needs to be certified so that the state fire marshal will feel confident and
Correct.
And-
And that's what I'm saying,
Right.
that's what the MOU,
So they have to be certified.
they need to go through that.
to your point, though, Jim Allen could go into a building, I'm fairly confident, and point out whatever flaw, you know what I mean? He knows everything, electrical, he's highly competent, but as Angela just said, it won't be rubber stamped by the state. So if we're gonna do it correctly, we would need the Jim or whoever to go take the class.
And he'd probably want that.
Licensed.
Or whatever you gotta do
I'm not
to,
trying to cut corners here, but
no, I'm just,
Alan looking at it and saying that this is acceptable is fine with me. I don't see why we need a state stamp on it.
It may not be fine with Jim, though. He may want that to feel comfortable to go out and do these.
Who, Jim?
Jim, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's all.
I mean, that's a good question to ask, right? Yeah.
I would ask him.
yeah, I mean, and that is the $100,000 question, do we wanna have, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we can do it that way. Can we?
Me walking around with a sheet of paper there and saying.
It sounds like the only way to do it is to have a certified person to do it.
So should we ask Jim if is he still?
He was as of this
Yeah,
morning,
okay.
until I found out the instructor information, and I
Okay.
didn't mention it again to him, so.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like
So to be put on hold probably then till we speak with Jim again or get an official answer? What do you think, right?
Well, if it's not Jim, it should be somebody else, so we still should vote whether we want to proceed with this method or not. Frank, I agree with you, and it would be great to have a little hybrid just for Plymouth, but I think by doing that, the fire marshal's gonna wipe their hands of it and say, you're on your own, we're not involved
The
anymore.
fire marshal has already done that to us.
Well,
I would say we
yeah.
still use the fire marshal for 8
Right,
hours.
but if we go through the class and we get the certification, it sounds like they're taking on some liability for doing that. So we're walking away from that liability from the fire marshal's
it's a
end.
good credential.
It's like
Yeah.
a job. Like I'm a hairdresser, you have to have a license. You can't work as long as you have a license.
Yeah,
Your company that you work for
Yeah.
insures you unless you're on your own. It's like any other, you know,
If I was doing them, I might want to have the course be certified, right?
yeah. 100 hours really isn't a lot. I don't know how much you guys can do online. I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty,
I mean,
There are different courses, just nothing is available.
right, y'all I know. Well,
But there is also
also,
in person.
things are being cut. Really, so.
Self-certified?
well, could we leave it up to the appointee, whoever this person is? If it's Jim, like it's his choice, and then,
Yeah, we have the
Right.
conversation with him, right? See where it,
Yes,
I mean, that's what just to make sure, but I think
I really don't know. I mean, I can't say one way or the other. I mean, Frank's idea is viable, I just don't know if it's legally possible. You know what I mean? It sounds like what Angela's saying is more, prudent.
do you know what Jim's take is on wanting to get the certification?
He wants to, absolutely, he would have gone to Maryland.
Yeah,
Because he thought that
Yeah,
that's what
okay.
he needed, but.
Well, there's that
they
answer.
canceled,
Yeah.
so.
okay,
I like that.
okay.
And if that doesn't work out for some reason, we talk about it again.
And what do we do in the meantime?
But you have Michael Messer come to do these.
The state guy?
Yeah, he said he would if we were in a pickle, and
Maybe Jim can tag along and do a tag team and kind of two of them work together a little bit. And Jim can get a feel for it.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Okay.
They're close to school.
So what do we have to make a motion then to appoint or elect
I
or
don't think-
hire someone?
Yeah, we could say that.
Yeah, we can hire somebody and then,
Is it a hire?
Would you look into it?
I mean, it's not, are we, yeah, let's.
yeah, they're
are
gonna
we
need
paying
to
them to
get
do that?
paid, so. Well, if the state's been charging $125 or $150 inspection, we can continue to do that in addition to the application fees and stuff, and maybe that would support Jim's time.
Is there any amendment required to the ordinance? I can't remember. Do we have to do anything there?
Say that again?
Do we have to amend anything in the ordinance?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Probably,
All right,
but that's not a big deal.
okay. So as we get a little closer, we'll
Hmm.
amend it then.
So I think the first step is, if we want to approve doing inspection with the town personnel, then we should get the proper certification. And then the next step would be making sure Jim's on board or somebody and send him to school. Right? So I'll make a motion that we hire somebody to do the inspections and take the courses so we can get our memorandum of understanding from the Division of Life Safety, Fire Safety.
We're inspecting all properties, right? It's regardless of bedroom.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
The
That's
town
right.
is electing to do that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's my motion.
Yeah, it's fair. I'll second.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Progress.
All right, so the next
No,
is,
just one
no,
second. Keith, did you say the fire marshal has to do the 8 or more? So the town wouldn't do the 1 to 8 or more? Fire marshal.
I mean,
I'm just asking.
I don't, that's a good question. I guess, what, Frank?
If you're certified, we could do 8 or more.
Okay.
Our guy could do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we could do
So
everything.
what
then.
would be cheaper to stay or?
Taking that class. That class covers that.
So I
Oh,
guess what would be less money to stay or, that's another question that comes down.
The same.
it sounds like it would
Be
be
the same?
The homeowner pays for that.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious, you said 8 or more, so that's why I was trying.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm still confused by the conversation I had. I don't, it's sad. That's my understanding of it, that the state comes in. That's correct, right? The state comes in 8 or more.
No,
More than
above
eight.
so
Yeah.
9.
It's
Nine.
more than eight,
Yeah, so
not
9.
8 or more, it's more than 8.
Okay, so, okay.
And if there was questions on an 8 or less, and people, Jim had concerns,
No, I
Mike
agree.
Messer would come in and look at it as well.
Oh, okay.
Funky things.
I don't think we would have more than 2 or 3 that are more than 8. No.
Okay.
And that, I mean, that would imply more than 4 bedrooms then, right? That's how they're counting it out, 2 per bedroom.
Yeah. Okay. So if I understood the interim correctly, Jim or whoever candidate is likely, most likely Jim, would start doing this process now and with Mike Mercier, kind of together to just kind of get a feel for it while we're waiting for the class to be scheduled?
He could, and it could be, hit or miss, here or there.
Yeah.
But it's probably gonna be a few months, 'cause there's no
Okay.
chance of that.
Just
in the
so
meantime,
people don't get hung up and waiting for something to happen. We have a responsibility to
Correct.
do something.
can we do the self-certification in the meantime and say, hey, we'll have somebody here as soon as they're hired and on board
We
to,
could.
is that?
Yeah, but do we have to change the ordinance, because isn't it all it has to go through?
Yeah, you're right. We'd have to change the ordinance. Yes.
I think everything has to call. the
Yes, you're right. We would.
Right.
I believe with ordinance change.
Yeah.
All right, let's try to only do that once, right?
Well, whoever does do that has to coordinate it through us because
Yeah.
we have the names of the people
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
who need to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You've got all the database. And, yeah. Okay.
We good for now? Okay.
Okay.
All right, the board to review and approve revised tax overpayment credit policy. It was $100, now it's $25. So if anybody overpays their taxes over $25, we give them a refund in cash. Is that correct, Angela? Yeah, or check, I should say, not cash.
Does that happen often?
Used to be $100.
There's quite a few people, really.
So this alleviate.
Didn't we just talk about that and make it $100?
It ended up, Sherry didn't say what she wanted, but she was hoping it would be less.
Less than 100? 25.
So will this eliminate our,
We won't have to carry the credit over, and Elaine jump in if you want as former.
Yeah, it's
But-
easier to refund it.
will that affect the Board of Abatement hearings, I guess what I'm gonna ask you.
Mm-mm.
Well, we still have to have those, is what I'm asking.
Not because of this,
No.
not because of this.
Okay,
This is like,
so-
somebody gets their bill,
And they've overpaid.
writes it for the wrong amount, happens.
Right, so that's what the situation that arose the other day, is that.
That was different. That was a lister value versus a tax bill
But
issue.
wasn't it a computer error? That's how I interpreted it.
Yes, this is, right, those two things that weren't reconciled before. This is where
Okay,
cost,
so I guess I was trying to figure out. Right.
this is when it's the
But
tax,
one was right, one was wrong.
this is when it's the taxpayer's error.
Okay, so that's a taxpayer, that's one thing, so
Yep.
the, hearing the other night,
Was for a town error,
right, but it was one system to the other, is how I interpreted it.
correct.
Information was put in one, but the other one didn't get the correct information.
Sound good.
A computer glitchy, so that's why I sent that email, because I think there's another way to avoid having abatement hearings, is what I was kind of
Okay.
trying to get at that.
Had somebody noticed it and made a correction before,
Yes, that was the other, yeah,
that would.
Are you guys good with this?
right, and that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
right, thank you, right.
I'll second.
Confusion was
The-
thinking, 'cause
Down to
reading
25
Oh, the
that
tax thing?
Yeah.
section. Okay,
It's just a
all right.
method of payment. We either credit or we
Carried over.
refund.
Okay. All right.
We just have to wait on it.
So we approve that, Angela, right?
Okay. All right. Delinquent real estate tax update. Is that in here? Okay. From Beth? Okay. Somebody want to read this or you want me to read it?
Go for it.
So this is from Beth Graves Lombard, our delinquent tax collector. Delinquent tax update as of 4/28/25, which is today. Certified letters went out to taxpayers who have been delinquent since 2023, along with the monthly delinquent notices. The letter was requesting to pay their tax bill in full or make satisfactory payment arrangements by May 31st, 2025. It also outlined the procedures for how we proceed with the tax sales. My goal truly was to motivate taxpayers to contact the town office and get additional ways, other than by mail, to have ongoing conversations to avoid delinquency in the future. The activity for April 2025, 13 certified letters went out on April 14th, 2025. 7 have signed that they have received their notices. 1 has paid all delinquent taxes and is current. 2 have paid the 2023 taxes and will begin making payments for 2024. The property that has been delinquent and in bankruptcy since 2015 is in the process of closing. Our real estate attorney, Stephen Nkuda, has been in contact with their attorney and requested an updated total of taxes due to pay in full prior to May 3rd, 2025. Kevin Barnes called from the Vermont properties and requested documentation to assist him in listing the properties for sale. Respectfully submitted, Beth Graves Lombard, delinquent tax collector. Wow, doing a great job. And there's a delinquent tax report for 2023 as listed in the 2024 town report. As of 12/31/2024, $58,210 was owed. Town property owned, $4,417. Taxes still owed for 2023 is $43,498. And the total amount collected so far has been $11,594.
Dave, those are the new ones. What's the outstanding?
This is, these are 23, likely as it was 12/31 of 24. So I'm not sure what is
Is there an
new.
ongoing list of properties that are still on tax sale though?
We have 3 of them. I was gonna introduce this in other business. I was on the phone with Kevin Barnes. I just authorized him to list these 3 properties. And, he's gonna be taking pictures of them this week, and they'll be listed at the prices we discussed, or he recommended, and see what happens.
Those are all.
Those are town owned.
They're town owned.
Yeah.
That's what
We bought them at the last tax sale.
that's what I meant.
And, I guess, can I speak about it now, since we're speaking about it?
No.
With they wanted to have a agent of record, and I recommended either Beth or Angela. I mean, it's basically the person that will receive the official documentation. So it probably should be Beth, or it could be the treasurer. So I'll let you decide who it should be. Kevin. The town is the owner of record. He's gonna put that on the listing, and then whoever the official email shall be, whether it's Beth or, probably should be Beth or Cherry.
Let's see. Possibly approve disabled veterans credit. Can we approve $10,000 without going to town vote? And that is a yes, is that correct?
That was my understanding when I read it, but please have you guys look at it. I believe that the state mandate, and anything above that has to go to town vote.
Okay.
That's the way I read it too.
That's how I take it.
Now, if we wanted to make it, increase it up to that 40, we'd have to have a vote, otherwise the 10 grand's baseline.
So we do have somebody inquiring, and he has a form to get it. So I brought it back because I didn't want to make it late if we didn't have to for next year.
So we can just vote to enact it, or it is an act, it's already enforced.
It's a mandate, but I mean, it'd be nice to have you guys vote on it, because again, please read that statute, those sections I highlighted, just to say you agree.
So real and personal property to the extent of $10,000 of appraisal value, except for any part used for business or rental, occupied as the established residence of and owned in simple fee by a veteran, the veteran's spouse, widow, widower, or child, or jointly by any combination of them. If one or more of them are receiving disability compensation for at least 50% disability, death compensation, dependence and indemnity compensation, or pension for disability paid through any military department of the Veterans Administration, if before May 1st of each year there is filed within the Office of Veterans Affairs a written application for the compensation or pension, and 2, a written statement from the military department of the Veterans Administration showing that the compensation or pension is being paid. Only one exemption may be allowed on a property. Application for an exemption under this section based upon permanent disability is only required to be filled out with the Office of Veterans Affairs before May 1st of the year for which the exemption is sought, and the exemption shall remain on the grand list until the property is transferred. Okay, so it has to go to a town vote or a special meeting. At an annual or special meeting warned for the purpose, a town may increase the veteran's exemption under this subdivision to up to $40,000 of appraisal value.
Well, I'm confused.
Yeah. So it sounds, if I read this correctly, I think we can do $10,000. But if it's more than that, we have to do a majority of vote at an annual or special meeting to get up to 40.
Yeah, we'd have to make a motion to present it for a vote and let people vote on it if we were so inclined.
If it's over 10,
Right,
right. okay.
whereas it's 10
And
right
it
off
can
the
go
bat.
up to 40.
Could.
Okay, okay. But under 10, we can approve it as a board.
Yeah, I think
that's
it
what that
exists.
says.
I think it just exists as per the state.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I understand it.
What was the May 1st thing that has to be done before May 1st?
Sounds like they have to certify to the state that they are in fact a veteran. And as long as they do that, then they get the benefit. There's forms that there's a tax form that they gotta fill out.
Nothing happened for people this year.
Well, it's close.
Yeah, it's before May 1st each year.
Somebody really, they could theoretically, they can file it tonight, tomorrow. They had to.
The one gentleman called, he already has his form completed, I just told him to hold on to it, because I didn't want
So
you
if you were to pass this now at $10,000 level, it's not going to really affect anyone this year because of the date. So if you were to defer it to the annual meeting and up it to 40,000, that would have to be a town vote, and that would allow plenty of time for disabled veterans to get their paperwork in order and be able to apply for that. And you could approve the 10,000 now and then 40,000 at town meeting is just 10,000.
I think you're right, Bruce, that's the way I see it.
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve the, oh, sorry.
The townspeople would vote on the increase, right?
We'll have to do that at town meeting, but we should, and I think we should. If we just remember to put it on there, it'll be a long ways away.
And there was somebody, well, Michelle, who was here last time, said Windsor does it for every veteran. My question is, because that's specific to disabled,
Mm-hmm.
there's this 3 criteria there.
Yeah.
Is that something that, and I'm not saying the town does, can a town make their own decision to say all veterans get it?
I don't know. That's a good question for the league because this is a statute. If there's another statute,
Yeah, that's the only one I've seen.
these things are pretty particular.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is if there's a lot of veterans.
Oh, and I'm sure.
You're gonna notice the difference in tax revenue. Not that I'm not for it, being a veteran.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you should take advantage of the benefit.
My disability is the catch-22. You know, if you're insane, but you say you're insane, by reason of saying you're insane, you're not.
Voids out the benefit.
You are way overthinking this, Bruce.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with instituting the thing 10 grand now. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like it's
Absolutely.
just a formality that we haven't done it already.
Yeah.
Rubber stamped it, should be already exist kind of, so.
I think the clean and simplest thing is to follow the statute for now, and if we want to make any changes, we could talk about it at town meeting when we talk about the other limit of up to 40.
Okay.
We can put that in one discussion maybe. So do you make a motion?
I was gonna, but
No.
you can.
No, you can.
Okay. I'll make a motion to do the 10,000.
I'll second it for you.
Yeah. I vote yay.
Anything else? Any other business?
Do you still have on your list RFP for camera, security cameras?
I do, yes.
Okay, okay. I don't have anything else.
Angela, Rick?
I talked about the
Okay.
Kevin Barnes thing and the other thing.
All right, so our next meeting then is Monday, May 5th.
May 5th, okay.
That's only like a week.
Why are we having a meeting a week from now?
Our first and, we usually do first and third, but we did first and fourth this month because of, yeah, because you're on vacation.
Kinda.
Is this discussion gonna be about the bridges and the road closures?
That's
Oh, that's-
17th?
19.
19th.
And a lot of people wanna come to that.
Yeah. Good.
They're getting fired up. They're fine with the closures, they just wanna tell them you need to put a lane open.
So I think a good thing for them to do would be, we can find a place but to write letters.
Oh, they are.
Okay, because the agency that comes here, you know, speaks about the projects, but I don't think they have decision-making authority.
So, remind me again, who has the decision making?
Well, somebody who was talking to you called and was yelling at me today.
From Plymouth Chief.
Because she said we were closing the bridges and blamed the town for it. And I said, had nothing to do
No,
with
it
it.
has nothing to do with the town.
I know.
It's the state. Oh, she's a pistol.
So they were she was working on sending an email here as well as she called the governor too.
Oh, my goodness.
So Greg Markowski is one of the advocates on that end of town, where they were gonna replace the temporary bridge, and he's requested letters from the town of Plymouth, the town of Killington, yep.
Should be Bridgewater too.
Yep. So yeah, he's on top of it. He's talked to everybody at the state, by the way. I think at the next meeting we should probably officially agree to write a letter to the state that says we want. It wasn't on tonight's agenda, although I don't know. We could.
I mean, they did it before, when they did that bridge there, they put it was two
They
lane.
do it when it's in their interest, but they can't. What they're proposing to do is going to inconvenience hundreds, not thousands.
I mean, they did it they inconvenienced a whole lot of people last time, so it's not like they're not willing to do it.
Oh, no, they should do it. Angela, will you send me the names? I'll write one to Charlie. Who's Joe Mason?
I called Charlie or emailed Charlie too and said we were going to be making noise about this, so he knows too.
I thought you discussed writing a letter last meeting.
Did we discuss? So we can go. So we can go ahead and write a letter. All right. It's on my to-do list then for tomorrow, and I'll circulate it.
We should have time.
We all don't. None of us have any.
Hey Keith, check this out. Angela put the permit in here for that sign, and it has all that information that will answer your questions. Pictures of signs and everything. But that's the permit that
Thank you,
Angela
Elaine.
got, and that's all the requirements
Thank you
for the
for this.
sign. I didn't realize it was in the packet.
Of course, he would be up to.
Hey,
My meeting didn't make it.
what? Both of
Yeah.
them? Wonder why?
You didn't have anything to complain about.
I think after the summer.